One significant development we've seen because of this overload of media is the idea that the news has been forced to change how they cover stories. We have fewer investigative reporters and fewer reporters covering what exactly happens, while we have more people commenting and offering their opinions on the stories of the day. Think about your typical cable news network, or typical website. The highest rated shows and most popular articles with the most clicks are commentary based rather than actual reporting of news. Thought pieces and editorials dominate websites and cable news, while actual reporting is relegated to the newspapers and to maybe a couple hours throughout the day. News has become what people are saying rather than what other people are doing. We offer commentaries, then people respond to the commentary, then someone calls the commentary racist, then someone calls the person critiquing the racist commentary the real racist, then the internet explodes, hashtags are created, we go to war on Twitter, Facebook, comment sections, YouTube, until the next most important issue in the history of ever happens. Think about this in terms of the Trump era, where so much of what he does and so much of the reporting is actually based on his tweets, rather than things he's actually done, things he's actually accomplished. We focus on his words, on his tweets, his exclamation points, whatever, rather than really what's going on in the news and what's happening. On the other side, even though we have greater and easier access to news options, more Americans are going newsless, or ignoring the news, checking out, avoiding things. There are a number of reasons for this, including the idea that people don't trust the media, overexposure, and the idea that the media are just too negative and it's all unpleasant to follow, so why bother? There's not much to say about this, but I do want to bring up this idea that most Americans don't really consume a lot of political information. Think about the biggest cable news programs, biggest sources have a few million viewers or readers, and there's a lot of overlap between many of them. In a nation of 300 million people, this means a significant number of people have tuned out of the news entirely. If they're not becoming informed about politics, then how can they exercise a meaningful choice when they vote? Do they have meaningful preferences with candidates and policies? How can politicians be expected to translate the popular will into policy if people don't know what they want and know what's going on? The idea that most people don't even skim the news on a regular basis has pretty significant implications for politics, and I really want you all to think about what that means, both in terms of the people you speak to on a daily basis, and in terms of what that means for our democracy. We describe the media as the fourth branch of our government, charged with giving the people oversight over the official three branches. They're the only industry mentioned specifically in the Constitution, and member of the press is the only career given explicit freedoms in our Bill of Rights. This is how important our founding fathers thought the media was, and how important they thought this oversight function of our government truly is. However, in days of yore, states often tried to restrict this freedom. As we'll see in the Civil Rights and Liberties chapter, freedom of speech and the press were often infringed upon by the states, and this part of the First Amendment wasn't fully incorporated for quite a long time. There's a couple of other types of laws I want to discuss here briefly that prevent censorship: libel and prior restraint laws. Libel occurs when someone in the media knowingly says something that is both untrue and harms somebody. These laws are even less applicable to public figures, meaning that the media has tremendous freedom when reporting on politicians. But more importantly, libel is not a criminal offense. It's a civil tort, meaning that the only remedy is a civil one. You won't go to jail for libeling someone. You will have to pay that person damages, though, and you have to show damages. It's an incredibly high bar to reach, and it's one that basically gives the press carte blanche to say whatever they want with limited restrictions. That's why you see things like the Inquirer and these other tabloid magazines existing and basically being lawsuit-proof. The second concept is the ban on prior restraint. The Supreme Court has decided that they don't have the right to prevent someone from printing something that may be libelous. The only recourse is a civil one where you can sue someone after the fact. So I can print whatever I want about you, I just have to be ready to pay the price for it later. This is another great example of the tremendous freedom that the media has and the few restrictions that are on them.